Before I proceed, I would like to express my gratitude to the government and people of the Ethiopia for the excellent facilities put at our disposal since our arrival in the beautiful city of Addis Ababa over the past 2 years, two days. And Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to present to you the implementation status of the INFF in my country, Nigeria. Of course, following the contractions and even the losses that till the unhealthy global development in the global economy, Nigeria had the need to take very proactive steps to address its macroeconomic imbalances. And then we saw the INFF as the next available flight, and we boarded. Then Nigeria, as a team pointed out, was one of the first countries to launch its INFF with great enthusiasm and expectations. But along the line, there was a general election in 2023 with the government decision to front-load very bold reforms, and that actually slowed down the initial momentum for the program because of the impact of the reform, and then the need for the time lag needed for the new government to settle in and then fashion out the policy direction. Nonetheless, on the rebound, the program has picked up, and then we have recorded a couple of milestones in its implementation. But in Nigeria, the SDG financing gap is estimated to be about $10 billion annually. And to fill this gap, Nigeria's financial strategy is developed as an umbrella for the medium-term revenue strategy and then the expenditure framework under fiscal federalism and the private sector reforms. The INFF Plus adopted targets to expand the envelope for SDG financing and also enhance the sustainable development impact of public and private finance at both the national and the subnational levels, to address urgent development needs. So in there, the financing also brings together the country's medium-term expenditure framework, also, and then the medium-term revenue strategy, as well as the fiscal federalism framework, and aiming to strengthen tax administration and policy. The government is also targeting an increase in revenue to reach 15% of GDP, as opposed to the current 10% revenue to GDP ratio. And then, the petro-fiscal subsidy removal policy of our government actually came with a lot of unintended outcomes that has impacted on livelihood and then living conditions. And about then, it was necessary because you find out that before now, what the government was spending on subsidy payment were exceeded what we spent on education, health, and infrastructure, all three combined. So, and then about $9.5 billion was saved by that singular policy of subsidy removal in 2023. All of this were targeted towards SDG project financing. Then there's also the forex management reform undertaken by the government, and like I said, this was having unpalatable consequences on livelihood. And then in order to cushion this effect, the government has undertaken a lot of social protection programs, including the conditional cash transfer, but to provide about 15 million with a household with about 75,000 every month. And it is expected that this program will also be extended to cover more households. But this is a very huge task for Nigeria, which as a country we cannot achieve on our own. So we require partnership. And in this regard, the World Bank has stepped in with a program of about $2.5 billion captured under the economic stabilization to enable transformation, research, development for development policy financing program, and the Nigeria Accelerated Resource Mobilization Reforms, and the program for results. All of these are SDG-aligned. Basically, the two programs, the Nigeria Accelerated Resource Mobilization Reforms and then the program for reforms for results, will complement domestic efforts to provide immediate financial and technical support to Nigeria's urgent need to stabilize the economy and then scale up support for the poor and most vulnerable in our society. Further, improvement in tax auditing capacity, for example, has enabled more than $30 million in increased revenue collection alongside the ongoing effort to digitize tax administration systems. The shift from one-year fiscal plan to multi-year perspective, then alignment of expenditure with the 8 SDG priorities, enhancing the contribution of institutional investors and pension funds in the SDG financing and leveraging remittances and diaspora investment. Reform policy in sectors such as artisanal and then small-scale mining and advance potential future green bonds issuances at subnational levels. Indeed, more than half of the action in Nigeria's financing strategy focus on private finance and then improving the enabling environment and stimulating SDG-aligned investment projects. Also, efforts to unlock capital include, for example, the development of a $105 million pipeline of investments in SDG investment, focusing across sectors including health, healthcare, agriculture, and finance, which have to date already raised about $5.7 million in new investment. And enhance transaction advisory support to women and youth-led micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises and green businesses unlocked approximately $5.3 million in assets for SME in 2023. Then a blended finance and public-private partnership are being used to scale up investment in key areas and expand the impact of capital by ensuring enhanced access for the most marginalized and furthest from developing sections of our populations. Also, the subnational government of Nigeria has also committed to INFF and their ongoing public finance initiatives in all the 36 states of the Federation and the FCT to establish capacity to deploy SDG-aligned financial instruments. For instance, there is the case of Gombe State in the northeastern part of Nigeria, which, as part of locally driven financial reform effort, recently organized an investor roundtable and the establishment of an investment facility, which resulted in 2 companies signing an MOUs for an investment valued at 14 billion naira, that's equivalent to about $9 million, with the potential to create over 2,000 jobs. In addition, Gombe State Investment Promotion Agency had been established with the state government issuing a 30 billion naira green bond, that's about 90 million, on the Nigerian Stock Exchange in February 2024. The state government has also outlined plans to raise an additional 15 billion naira to bolster vital infrastructure in projects in the state. Well, Gombe State is one of the 6 states of a subnational government in Nigeria that with the subnational development finance assets and the INF action plan geared towards investment promotion are ongoing, underscoring the increasing momentum towards impactful development initiatives at local levels. Other states, including Jigawa State, Zamfara State, Kebbi State, have recognized the best practice of this initiative and are towing the line at advanced level of preparations, including consultation with the Nigeria INFF Steering Committee, domiciled in the Prime Minister of Finance. Also, other ongoing financing dialogue between policymakers, the private sector, and crucially representatives and advocates for the most vulnerable are a critical foundation for innovation and accountability, ensuring that the financial system enhance sustainability and inclusivity. Well, one fascinating feature of the INFF is its tremendous scalability potential and scope for social development impact. It is important that countries recognize the extensive fiscal space underpinned by the INFF and then explore them to deliver on development targets and progress. The Ethiopian crisis-sensitive financing strategy, which highlights how to align financing across humanitarian development and peace priorities, is a very good reference point for many of us. Then the diverse and varying experiences shared in this gathering over the past 2 days build a consensus around the value of country-led, impact-oriented, and holistic financing strategies. They charge countries to develop more proactive and innovative homegrown initiatives to advance their development frontiers and catching up with the priorities of the SDGs, including gender equity, poverty eradication, climate action, nation environment, and of course, human capital development. It is important in Africa that we work to promote sustainable agriculture, which tackles hunger and poverty, but at the same time does not damage the environment. The INFF could stand out as one of the clear successes of the Addis Ababa Action Agenda, or there's need for bolder reforms and efforts to address financing and implementation gaps in a more coordinated way, both at the national and international fronts. In this regard, it cannot be overstressed that the time has come for goodwill statements to really translate into goodwill actions. The challenges that confront us have become quite concerning. The first approach of the end of the 2030 agenda and underscores the importance of inclusive and participatory processes for development, which lend credence to the assertion that development results are achieved when everything else works well together. Yeah. Well, in terms of, it is important that we also look at the underlying reason for the call for the reform of the international financial architecture. You look at it that the LDC countries and communities still operate only on the margins of global trade, thereby limiting their ability to build resilience. Consequently, international trade policies need to facilitate further opening up of international markets for exports and also foster progress in the process of trade liberalization. Ensuring the consistent approach to development is key, be it in terms of trade, defense, security, and the environment, agriculture, and finance. Also, there's the debt sustainability challenge, climate finance disparities, and significant gaps in gender equality. Lack of reliable quality data and statistics on development indicators, as well as inadequate or weak social protection platforms across many countries of the third world. Thus, informing the case for the reform of the IFA as a matter of absolute necessity as we prepare for the FfD4 to ensure that engagement between LDCs and donors foster cooperation in dialogue, negotiation, coordination, and pursuing mutual benefits and shared responsibility and adherence to international standards. So the reform of the IA is necessary. It's needed to strengthen multilateral development banks and enhance debt sustainability and transparency, and then improve access to credit for developing countries. We'll make a case for the launch of a new financing development initiative to support vulnerable countries, such as debt for climate action and poverty eradication, and then bridging inequalities, especially for countries that have shown strong commitments in this regard. Then promoting and helping countries strengthen abilities for better mobilization of domestic resources, as well as the understanding and application of innovative financing instruments, including blended finance, green bonds, impact investing is also called for. Then finally, it's also important to commit to improving integrity standards, limiting opportunities for corruption, and then strengthening compliance programs. I mean, in this regard, a universal action is needed to build strong institutions in our member states to tackle corruption in all its forms, followed with adequate financing and keen interest in the evolution and assessments of development pathways, and to improve business environment for small and medium-sized enterprises. I think I will stop here. Thank you.